Monster RX93.1 presents All Out, your daily morning pick-me-up. All out hits, all out celebrity interviews, all out sports and showbiz news. Your hosts, Rico Robles and Karla Aguas.
You know, speaking of not skipping, for sure you've seen The Last Dance. For those who don't know, Rico Blanco he's big in basketball. You know, you're the dude that I play ball with that wears chucks and could probably get 50 rebounds at one time. That kind of intensity that he has. So what's your take on it?
You'll be surprised, Rico. You'll be surprised. I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it?
Not interested.
I have
Why
to come.
I'll get so much hate for this, but okay. I was a Magic Johnson fan growing up, right? So as much as I respect Larry Bird now, I hated him when I was a kid. So anyone they faced, I cheered for. It was the Detroit Pistons. I cheered for the Detroit Pistons. I cried when Larry Bird stole that last second inbounds, and I thought the Pistons were gonna win, and then Celtics stole the game. I cheered for Jordan because he was going up against the Celtics. I cheered for him when he was coming up against the Bad Boys, because the Bad Boys were becoming a threat to my Lakers, Magic Johnson. And I remember what it was like to cheer for Michael Jordan. Yun na lang sabihin ko.
It's living that moment, right? It's capturing that moment. And that is awesome. That is awesome for sharing that. So it's like Rico is the type who would actually not video a concert, but watch a full concert. You know what I mean?
No, kasi my point. Okay, I'll clarify. It was so frustrating to cheer for Michael Jordan. I wanted him to win, but his style of play is not the kind of play that I like.
Why?
And of course with this success, I'll give you a clue. My favorite player was Magic Johnson. I play point guard. I enjoy playing point guard. I'm a little big as a point guard in our village. Just right, I guess, for bigger leagues because I'm about 5'8". But so, you know, even in our village, I could play maybe a 2 or 3. But I play point. I enjoy that. I enjoy. Please, I'm gonna get so much hate. But it was so frustrating to cheer for Michael Jordan that his "Come Fly with Me" and those documentaries in the 80s were well made. But I have my theories, kasi, and I just think. I'm not interested in this documentary.
Okay. Actually, Robles, when we were talking about his YouTube, he said that he has 3 things about it. One of them is sports, and he was saying that people like his music, they enjoy his music, but they might not necessarily agree with his stance on sports. Which I think it's very interesting. Because you don't also want to live your life just constantly trying to please people and getting yourself lost in the mix, right? And I feel like that's something that you really stand for, because apparently, like you are like so passionate about sports, you love sports, but your opinions aren't necessarily favorable to the majority, which is fun,
but the Magic and Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, LeBron fans will agree with me. So, you know, maybe half the people who like my music will disagree with me, but maybe half the people who hate my music will agree with me in sports. So,
whose documentary do you want to see?
Sorry?
Whose documentary, if ever given the chance, if somebody would make a documentary of all the athletes, who would be that person that you would watch?
Sayang, Wilt.
Oh, really?
There's, not a lot of, obviously, for technology, kasi, limitations, diba? There wasn't a lot of footage. But if they could do their research, because just because of his dominance. And when I have a pet peeve lang kasi when you talk about greatest of all time. So I didn't used to I still don't hate on Michael Jordan but when people go of all time pero hindi kasali si Kareem at saka si Wilt. So how is that of all time? Then just say greatest player in the 90s.
Era, yeah, you do the era, that's right.
Yeah, because like honestly, against that is personal opinion again, against the 80s Showtime Lakers.
That's something else. True.
I mean the Lakers sa first championship nila Jordan. The Lakers even took game 1. Tapos may mga overtime. Tapos nanalo na eventually yung Bulls. In my opinion, because James Worthy and Byron Scott were both injured. So we'll never know, 'di ba? Kung but that kasama sa ball game, but and old na yung Lakers, 'di ba? So to me, pwede mo sabihin greatest player in the 90s. I have no problem with that. But then I stopped watching NBA in the 90s I watched Euroball. I didn't like the way they were playing the NBA in the 90s. I watched FIBA. And then nung mga 2000s, medyo yung European style na incorporate na uli sa NBA, I started watching again. LeBron was there. He was a pass first guy. I saw that early on. So I said, wow, there's a guy I enjoy watching. So nanonood uli ako. And then the Spurs, the way they play, Golden State, the way they play, it's so much interesting now. So preference lang, hindi ko type yung scorer.
Hero ball. No hero ball.
Yeah.
It's a team aspect for Rico Blanco.
Baka ma-offend yung na pa-hero. But hindi naman. My brother is a scorer. His favorite players are scorers. He's got the footwork of Michael Jordan down pat. He's much smaller than me, but he scores like 30 per game.
Whoa, that's a lot.
So I have respect for scorers. It's not the type of basketball I enjoy. Yun lang.
Is that your approach as well, Rico? Thank you for sharing your thoughts on this, all right? But is this also your approach when it comes to music, when it comes to writing, when it comes to, for example, you're in a band setup before that you were doing?
Point guard ka. Point guard ka.
Ganun din.
Point guard ka. I would write songs, say back in River Maya, no? I would write songs na inisip ko ma-enjoy ni Mark tugtugin sa drums. Ma-enjoy kantahin ni Bamboo. Eto magugustuhan ni Nathan to na bass. And we have listening sessions all the time. And I'm listening to, I'm watching their reactions when I play certain CDs or songs, di ba? Pag nakita ko, medyo, okay, gusto pala niya yung ganyan. Gusto pala niya yung... So that's how I used to write for my bandmates. I listen to stuff they like. Okay, si Mark at si Nathan mahilig sa Jamiroquai, acid jazz. Okay, gawa tayo, hinahanap-hanap kita. Diba? So I guess parang point guard din. Sa studio rin, parang ganun.
And how much is it?
That's such an interesting approach to it because a lot of the times, right, when people are just writing songs, they're just writing the song, like whatever inspires them, they'll write it down. But you would observe as well, like, okay, so his style is like this, he's into like this, so I'll incorporate that. That's such a nice and interesting way to put it.
And to be fair, it's not all outward giving. I get confidence. I get confidence from my bandmates. If they give approval, if you see them enjoying, you get encouraged, diba? Okay, siguro tama itong ginagawa ko. And back then, I said this in one of my YouTube episodes, the one where I was reading fan mail. I did not care. I still don't care about random criticisms, critiques of my music. Kasi kung yung people that I respect enjoy it, and back then it was my bandmates. If my bandmates like my stuff, I don't care what you think.
Oh, love that. Sassy. Quick question here, Rico, from Arwin. What's one of the fastest songs that you've written? Would you remember?
Yeah, I do. Because it was so fast. I was amazed myself. It's Wag Na Init Ulo Baby. Sayang hindi ko na-tweet ito, ano? Di bali. Twitter world, do your thing.
What was the hardest song that you've ever written?
The song about Wag Na Init Ulo Baby first. Because my girlfriend then had an old piano in their old house. And maganda siya, pero wala sa tono. Sabi ko, patono natin tong piano mo. So I had called up our manager, got into a debate as to whether we should spend 4,000 ba? To have the thing tuned. Gastos daw, ganyan. Away pa kami. Anyway, I convinced our manager to send someone to tune it. Nung natono na, thank you, boss. Okay. Testing ko. Tang, 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 tang. It's the first thing I played on the piano. I wrote it right away. And I think nabuo na yung song even before I could finish playing it. Alam mo yun, like, while I was playing it, I already thought of the second verse. So, mga 2 minutes, siguro ganun.
Wow.
Or baka less. It doesn't happen a lot. It happens from time to time, but that was the fastest. And I remember, and so my lesson there is sometimes your instrument can give you inspiration talaga. If you have a new instrument, if you're bored with your instrument, switch to another instrument, and maybe you'll be inspired by it. Or maybe the sound of the house.
Wow.
That was the easiest.
Easiest and quickest. Robles, go. What were you asking?
What was the hardest? The most difficult?
This one. This too shall pass. This new song is the hardest.
Okay.
It's got... I told you about my situation here, and of course everyone's situation. So, you know, in... may blood, sweat, and tears to eh. You know, the living conditions here, syempre, way better than what other people are going through these times. But for me as an artist, it was hard to worry about how am I gonna get groceries? How long is this lockdown gonna last? Or you know, all this uncertainty, and then you have to write. Kasi yung survival mode at saka yung creativity, I learned with this song, the process dito, parang they don't go well together eh. Parang it's so hard. It was so hard for me to be creative with all this parang survival mode switched on, and the things that were happening. I haven't even told you half of it. Like my dog had an eye infection, where to order, the vets are closed. I had to put drops on his eye. He didn't like it. And I only had one hand to work with. So, like, how do you do that? He's a huge German Shepherd, diba? So, and you have to put it, several times a day, diba? And things, basic things. Some of my fish were dying. The garden was dying. It was summer. Hindi ko alam na didiligan ko pa ba tong garden o magko-conserve ako ng water kasi last year nagka-shortage ng water. So, and I was feeling guilty kasi life pa rin yun. Yung mga halaman, I couldn't let them die. Update, they're alive and well now. It's medyo I'll show you. Medyo may malaki-laki siya eh. Hanggang dun siya eh. So, there was one point that all of this green you see now was brown. So
Ooh.
up to now, I wake up every day at 7 a.m. so I could water them before uminit. So ang hirap ng song na to because I didn't have time. I only had one hand there. Natanggal na ngayon yung tahe. I had maybe 2 hours a day to work on it in the studio. So that's parang papainit pa lang yan sa studio and then tapos na. Kailangan mo na magluto ng dinner. So I had a hard time, but at the same time I'm thankful because I think the song, the process of writing it kept me company during those weeks while I was working on it. At least may kasama ako. Parang it was my line also to the outside world kasi I felt like in my head while working on it, I was speaking to frontliners, people who are worried about their jobs, where to get food. So, yeah.
And with that being, Rico, the motivation of you, writing the song, you have all the ideas, you have all the emotions, you're trying to encapsulate it. Now, where do you put the limit there that you have to structurize it, that it's not going to be a 10-minute song, it's not going to be a 20-minute song? How does that come in to play as a songwriter? Because there's a lot of emotions and there's only 3 verses or, that you could actually capture that.
During the first 2 weeks of quarantine, in fact, up to now, if I get to text some friends, and they're so pressured about, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm trying to do this. I tell everyone, sorry, eto na naman, unpopular opinion na naman. Now is not the time to be productive. Relax. Take care. The number one priority now, in fact, if it can be the only priority, is to survive. If you survive, there will be a time to be productive. If you don't survive, tapos. Productive ka ngayon and then you become unhealthy, napuyat ka, it took a toll sa mental health mo. So it's just not worth it. Don't feel any pressure that you see on social media. Make the most of your time in quarantine. No, just survive. That's it. Don't add to the problem. If you can help, go help. Yun lang. So having said that, music was very low in my priority list. I wasn't thinking of it. Parang to heed my own advice, di ba? But then I found like a song just popped in my head while I was taking a shower one day. And it was the lines na, I don't know how, I don't know when. And then the third line was different pa, blah, 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 blah. And then this too shall pass. And then ganun kasi ako pag dumating na yon, I worked on it during the time that I was in the shower and then siguro nung nagbibihis na ako after, I think nabuo ko na yung kanta within 10-15 minutes. The words. So to answer your question, Rico, yun na yun. Nasabi ko na agad. Because I guess so much emotion, the news, the fear, the worries, madali naman to put into words. Natagalan lang ako because I still couldn't go in the studio. I had a wound, so I only had one hand, can't really play any instrument. So because I had a week and a half to tweak the song, yun na naging problem ko. I had too many options. I fought against my own second guessing. And in fact, the first version doesn't sound like anything. Doesn't sound anything like the final version you're hearing.
You could call that the one-hand mix, the first one, right? The one-hand mix.
No, I started only working on it nung natanggal yung sutures ko The day after natanggal yung sutures ko. So I was getting stressed pa, do I have to go to the hospital? Because I don't want to go to the hospital. Diba? Makati med tong surgery ko I didn't want to go back there. So I had to sort that out.
So Rico, just a question. When you finish songs, when you write great songs and you finish songs, who's the first person to hear it other than yourself? Who do you call? Is there certain peers of yours that you would make the phone call, or a relative of yours? Oy, ma, pakinggan mo to. Tell me what you think.
Iba-iba. There's no but it's the people closest to me. My loved ones usually hear it first. If I'm confused, then I'll call a friend. Parang ganun. But if I'm so confident, no one even hears it. It goes straight to the record label. But my mom has in many occasions been the first to hear many of my work. I like her opinions.
Is she a tough critic? Is she tough?
She's a no. She knows how to criticize because all my life, from when I was small, when I was doing declamation and oratorical contests, she would know how to tell you to improve something without hurting your feelings. And she will tell you if she has a question. Hindi ba masyadong like this one? Kasi there's a faint sound of children playing in the beginning of the song.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you hear that, but I wanted that because it sounds like it's from outside and you're indoors. Or is it in your imagination of that time when children can freely play outside? And I want to set the mood with a sound design just right at the beginning of the song. So this is an insight to how I work on a song. So I wanted to get a clip of children playing, and I couldn't find any in my library. And so I go to our family chat group, and which has been a source of strength for me. Every day I check on family. This is our extended family chat group. And so the voices you hear in the recording is actually the voices of my nieces playing in Laguna, where my family is. So that also, I wanted for them to be with me in this song. So I had the family listen to it, guess whose voice, and my mom goes, don't you think the voices might be a little too soft? Baka you can you can raise the volume a bit in the mix. Parang ganun yung mga comments ng mom ko. And I go, no ma, okay.
Producer standpoint, galing.
Okay lang yun. I meant for it to be faint talaga. But she told me, and I'm free to follow her advice or not. But she will tell you.
Galing naman ng mom mo. Oh, Rico, we have a question here from Alvin.
Go.
What is your favorite song that you've ever made? Yung release na sana.
It's usually always the latest one. That
okay.
I like. Yeah. Because first of all, hindi siya mare-release kung hindi ko talaga siya gusto ngayon.
Mm-hmm.
It won't even see the light of day. So for me to release it now, that's my favorite.
All Out with Rico and Karla. All Out music and all out fun. Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. only on Manila's hottest Monster RX93.1.